Hey, everybody. It is Seraphin here. I am the host of Black Broadway Men's Spotlight Series, where we lift, laud, and celebrate the best of the best in our industry. And today, man, we have the GOAT. I'm going to call him the GOAT. He is the greatest to ever do it. He is an actor. He is an educator. He is a director. He is an all-around chill human being. And I am so excited to have this time with the one and the only inimitable, you know him as Stephen McKinley Henderson, the Doc.
Wow, man, wow, man. You did that one.
Oh, okay. Man, sir.
I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with you, but
come on and go with me.
All right.
I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to doing this interview. I know our schedules have been crazy and trying to line it all up, but we are here today, and I am stoked beyond words to be able to have time with you.
Glad to do it, and honored that you asked. You know, it's really, you hit 75 and you say, well, you know, it's time to get out the way and let those young people come on in there and do their thing. And y'all doing your thing, but it's really nice to be acknowledged by you guys.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can only do our thing because you did your thing and you continue to do your thing, and we're gonna get into it. You do your thing, and your thing, I was gonna say your thing is being an actor, but you are an artist like no other. Can you take us back? I believe the month was August. and that's fitting in and of itself. The month was August and the year was 1949. As our elder statesmen will say it sometimes. You came into this life when, from that moment to the moment that you discovered the world of the theater, and that would be the way you want to contribute through your life?
Well, I went away. I went through poetry first. I went, I did as a young child. I mean, like in first grade, I was in my first talent show where I sang then, because people would tolerate kid could sing any kind of way. But I sang, and but then I got with some guys and we pantomimed songs from the Coasters and the Poison Ivy, Charlie Brown, and like that, and do a little comedy thing, put it together. But when I really ran into poetry in Sunday school, when they would ask during Easter Sunday, do you want to do a poem, and they pass them around, I tried to get two. I said, I want that one too. There's something about the poetry when I really connected to that, and I was quite aware of Black vaudeville because the family that took me in, the woman, her father had been in Black vaudeville, and so I learned a lot about that from her, and she would tell the stories of some really, as Shakespeare said, hairbreadth escapes in the imminent deadly breach, where cats they would do their act and then they had to get out of town because they were going through the South, and that Peg Leg Bates and John Bubbles, and so I heard all these stories about these folks, and then I met some people as well, early entertainers who had friends who were in Black vaudeville. Some of the white artists like Jimmy Durante and Georgie Jessel and Sophie Tucker, who went and actually stole material. They would go and hear, because it was segregated reality, but they wanted to see the entertainers, and it's some material that they could clean up. And I say stole because they would give them some money for it. But I mean, they would. It's the creative side of it. The of the comedy came from the Black artists, and they credited them with money, but they ain't credited them with, I'd say it here. But
they put their name on it.
It wasn't a hateful thing. And when I learned of it, people were proud to say, hey, that's my material. They changed this and they changed that, but that's my material. So I learned at a very early age that there were these great Black entertainers, and that they had it a little different. That
Wow.
that and at that time they stayed in houses, the people's houses, for because they didn't really start staying in hotels into the 60s. So in the 50s and early 60s, if a great artist came to town, they stayed at somebody's nice house in the neighborhood, because the neighborhoods was all Black neighborhood, and there were a few houses that were larger and better furnished than others, and they had guest rooms, and
Mm-hmm.
entertainers stayed in the neighborhood. So that was quite something. So I was around it. Let me just say, as a kid, but got to high school, and I really fell in love with acting in high school. I had a great teacher, Gloria Terrell, God bless her, and my first year in high school, I got cast as Mr. Linder in Raising in the Sun.
Raising in the Sun.
In my
Wow.
Black high school, I played the white man. See,
Wow.
um, but I was a part of the group. I
Yes.
just come into high school, and they were very accepting of me, and I took a lot of teasing, but at the same time, that led me to the next part I did, which was Helen Keller's brother in Miracle Worker, and
Uh-huh.
and then I got to do this musical, Most Happy Fella. And in high school, I played Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. Because I see our high school.
Let's pause for a moment.
Yeah,
You started off hitting the heavy hitters.
yeah, man, I
You
did.
you started off with the heavy hitters.
I did that. I really did do that. I really did do that. I enjoyed it. And it was quite a thing. And then I went to Lincoln University, a historic Black college, in Jefferson City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And I did 1 year there, and was a stagecrafter there, and I got a chance because of the teacher in high school who had brought me in as Linder, and then brought me back, and I got to play Walter Lee too when she was working on her graduate degree. So she brought me back 3 years later, 4 years later. She cast me as Walter Lee, and I said, "Wow." And that's how I got into Juilliard, because John Houseman and they were touring and going around auditioning students, and the I was at Lincoln, but the people at the University of Missouri at Kansas City agreed that I could go to Chicago and audition for Juilliard as if I was a student, as if I were a student at their school. So it was all very,
this is
very,
this is
yeah,
divine.
but
There's some divinity in there.
yeah. But the lady, Dr. Patricia McElrath, she was disappointed that they didn't take more of her students. So as an afterthought, after they left Kansas City, she asked my teacher, "Where's that colored boy that did Walter Lee and Raising in the Sun for you?" And she said, "He's at Lincoln," And so they got me together, and my teacher flew me to New York, up to Chicago. It was the first time I was on a plane, and I went to Chicago and auditioned, and I got into the first class, Group 1 at Juilliard.
Juilliard. Wow.
So I was really going to keep doing it then. I knew I was going to keep doing it then.
Wow. I want to pause for a moment because I love to celebrate and to acknowledge the people, the communities that kind of gave us our jump start. Yeah. And you said there was this family that introduced you to vaudeville that kicked it all off.
Yeah.
Right. Can you say their names?
Yes. Irene and Benny Walton.
Yeah.
Miss Irene Susie Rhodes Walton. That was her name. And Papa's name was Benny Walton. And they took me in, no relation at all. And that's where I grew up, in their house.
That is, so this is really, so you said so much that I already feel so connected to you just in the way life unfolds.
Mm.
The man I know as my father, Professor, I'm going to call you, the man I know as my father was my first acting teacher who I met when I was 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
My birth father died after I was born. This man had no relation to me at all. I wandered into his youth theater class. Watch this, on the west side of Chicago.
Wow.
That's what I'm telling you. This is we
See
closer
there?
than close,
See
sir.
there?
I wandered into his youth theater class, and these kids were playing around, putting on people's different clothes and acting crazy, and not getting in trouble. And we fell in love. We fell in love from that day to this day. He is the grandfather to my children. And so that's why I love to honor those people
Yes,
who
sir.
saw something in us, poured into us, that opened the door for us to have the things that we have, to experience the life as we've experienced it, certainly through the arts. So I celebrate that.
Absolutely.
I celebrate that for you. I also just want to highlight this Chicago piece, because Chicago would play a significant role, or at least for me in my introduction to you, would play a significant role in me getting to know you as an artist. And that was seeing you and Paul Butler and Chiz,
yeah,
and Jitney. I was there. I was doing a show in the second space while you all were there doing Jitney, and blew my mind the things that you were doing on that stage. You and Chiz held me spellbound.
Oh, I tell you, man, you bring this up, and that was quite a journey with
Yeah.
August. And
So hold on before you even say that, because I want to point this out, because you're going right where I want to go. Everybody, you all have to know that Professor Stephen McKinley Henderson is the preeminent interpreter of the August Wilson canon. You got to know it. There's not a play, I don't care how you experience it, there's not a play, I don't think, that has not come across your fingertips that you have not voiced in some way, shape, or form that August had penned. You've been on the ride.
yeah, I've been in 8 of the 10.
Yes.
8 of the 10 various regional theaters, and 3 with August. But I must say, when you mentioned Chiz, you call me whatever, but Chiz, and then also work with Rock Dutton, and
Yeah.
Rock was the man from in front, and then all the brothers down in Pittsburgh that worked on August before the world knew him. Monte Russell, I mean, Salahuddin, a lot of great brothers, man, from back in the day. So as you say, you gotta bear witness to those who you got the craft from, and Teresa Merritt, man, and Esther Rowe I worked with.
Yeah.
She was there, but that Chicago has been a very important part of my journey. I got to do Studs Terkel's radio show there.
Mm-hmm.
The audition that I did for Juilliard was at Hull House, Jane Addams Hull House.
Yeah.
It was you was talking about it, so I know And,
yes, sir.
And I came back through there. Also worked with the Chicago playwright, or he was a Chicago playwright. He's a national playwright, Charles Smith. I don't know if you know.
Oh, I absolutely know Charles Smith.
Yeah. And so Chicago. That was, for my thing in Kansas City, when I was growing up in Kansas City, going to Chicago was like going to Moscow for the Three Sisters.
Yeah.
Chicago, and we follow the impressions when they came through. Some of us were able to go and see what other city they were going to play on the way back to Chicago. So and Jerry Butler and the Impressions. So that was all Chicago sound, man, and Major Lance and Gene Chandler, and all of that.
Yeah.
So
your performance in Jitney, and of course Chiz, masterclasses though, was spellbinding. Can you just talk to us a little bit? And I know you've talked about this in interviews past, but I think it just bears repeating. The doorway into your relationship with August and what that relationship, how that relationship has just kind of moved or inspired you.
Well, his sister introduced me to him in Pittsburgh. I was coming back from the Totem Pole Playhouse where I did The Boys Next Door, and I saw that August was speaking at a church, and I went there, but there was no one there, and this woman was coming out the door. She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Well, I'm on my way back to Buffalo, but I had heard that August Wilson was speaking here at 1 o'clock, and so I wanted to hear him." She said, "Yeah, well, the paper, I don't know whether they meant to get it wrong or not, but it was at 11 o'clock, and they put it in as 1 o'clock. So now gone." And she said, "But do you know this actor named Kashmir Ellis who lives in Buffalo?" I said, "Yeah, I know Kashmir." So she said, "Well, if you take him a message, I'll introduce you to my brother." So I happened to run into in St. Benedict de Moor's church to August, one of August's sisters, Frida, and she said, "Now he's speaking over in Homewood now, so if you want to follow me, I'll take you over to Homewood." So she took me over. I got to meet him, chat with him. I mean, it was like, really incredible. And I was just about to go do Joe Turner's Come and Gone in Buffalo. I was about to play Bynum, and so I asked him about the streets and about the plays and the blues titles and all of that. And he talked about Two Trains and all. And we just had a great time. And a few, well, it was maybe 2 years later, I got a chance to audition for Jitney because of a director named Claude Purdy, who was a good friend of August. And he told him, he said, "Man, this cat has got some chops, man." He auditioned for me for a show that already was cast. And then when he came in, did his audition, I said, "Dog, man, I already cast somebody in that part." But he said, "I'm going to remember you." Now, I said, "Yeah, I heard that before. Yeah, man, okay. You ain't going to cast me. I was, yeah, but he did. He was true to his word. He got me an audition with August and Mary McClinton for Jitney. And that time they did have somebody they thought they wanted to play Turnbow, but I got it.
You got it.
And
you put your name on it, sir. You put your name on it.
I did. And it was a joy. And to be with that company, man, Paul Butler and Chiz and Cortez. I mean, just some great oh man, Russell Andrews, Yvette Gagne. It was quite a family group, and so we did that play from 1996 to 2002.
Yeah,
we did that play for 6 years, and August won the Olivier Award in London for it when we played National Theatre of Great Britain. And, it was, and then from then on, I went to King Headley with him, and then the Ma Rainey revival with Whoopi Goldberg and Rock and Paul Gordon and Thomas Jefferson Byrd, and we became friends, and like every kind of relationship, when they say you go through thick and thin, thin comes, man. Ain't always thick. And I had an occasion he wanted me to do a show, which I won't mention the role and all that, but I wasn't able to. My son was graduating from college, and I told him this, and I can't do it right now. But he, you don't say no to a genius but one time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Although we remain friends, we communicated and talked and laughed and joked, but I didn't do another play with him.
Let's pause there because this is significant, and this because we're also, I think this is a teaching moment, and you are the consummate teacher, and I think you just taught us a lesson here. You said you can't say no to genius but once, and then after that, you didn't originate another thing.
No, sure did.
Can you talk about those fissures? Can you talk about and how we recover from them?
Well, he asked me, it's funny. He had a little trouble bringing one show in just to get it in town. And at the time, I was cast to play Van Helsing in Dracula, the musical.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, yeah. And so David Gallo, a great, great scene designer who came to see the show, went back and told August, he said, man, you got to see Henderson, man, playing Van Helsing, man. He's doing this with this Dutch accent and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so August said, nah, man, I ain't gonna see that. But I went into a bar and he was having a beer and talking with Todd Kreidler, and I went in to get a sandwich and a beer, and we sat down, we were talking, and he said, "Yeah, man, I heard you doing nice in that." I said, "Yeah, man, I'm glad your show came in and everything." And he said, "I wanted to ask you." At first I asked him. I said, "Listen, the '90s play is coming up, and Stu Pigeon was alive in the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering if he's in the '90s, you know what I mean? Because I was trying to get back in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, I wonder. He said, I'm writing it now. I hadn't thought about that, man. About Stu Pigeon. Yeah, he could still be alive. So he was, considered and everything. And then I saw him a couple of days later, and he was on one side of the street, and I was on the other side. And he said, "Hey, Steve." I said, "What?" He said, Stu Pigeon is alive. He's alive in the '90s. He said, but he ain't in the play.
Oh,
so he said, but he's not in the play. And I laughed, and he smiled, he laughed. Later, he asked me if I would understudy him. Because when he wrote How I Learned What I Learned, and he was going to be doing it, right? And he said, would you understudy me? And I said, August, there's no way that I'm going to go out on the stage. People have bought a ticket and you tell your story, okay? They say over the loudspeaker, "Oh, tonight's performance will be." I said, "No, brother, that ain't happening." And he laughed, and both had our, you know what I mean? It was, and I communicated with him again a little later when he was ill. And there was personal stuff that means so much actually after I wasn't working, because and I told him it's because I had to be there for my son, and it's his plays that taught me how important family is, and what like he didn't grasp about, well, he did grasp, but what he can't appreciate is that because I didn't grow up with my parents, I didn't grow up in a house where everybody had the same last name.
Mm-hmm.
I have that as a parent. I got to have that. And I only had one son. So I definitely was going to be there, because I wasn't going to be in a play and not able to make my son's graduation from Cornell University and help him move into New York City for his first job and so on and so forth. So anyhow, but we got through it, we got through it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. And it's beautiful for us as Black men to hear that we can have a little bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
We can have those fissures, but repair is possible.
Absolutely.
Repair is possible.
And as artists, when you work with other artists, everybody, there's this thing about conflict. They say, the conflict that makes drama. And conflict is not one person that's right and one person that's wrong. Conflict is two right people coming at this thing.
Yeah.
Both of them convinced that they're right. And if you can go from that position to another position, a better, more enlightened, inclusive position. And that's the whole journey, trying to repair this country, trying to repair the history of it and all. This is us working for more perfect union, as the Constitution said, to have a more perfect union. And so yes, you can have these fissures, you can have this stuff, and you can always come back from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Here's something else more profound for me. You all were in rehearsals in Chicago in August. I don't know what he put a script. He put the script on the table in the green room, and we were young directors and actors sitting in that green room. And first of all, that August walked through that green room. That's not fun. And then he dropped this play on the table. He dropped the script on the table, and it was Jitney. I don't know if he did it on purpose. I don't know what, but I will tell you, I grabbed that script and I devoured it. And I've directed that production twice. I directed a production in Germany. I don't think August had been done in Germany.
Wow.
And we did it in Berlin. We did Jitney in Berlin. So that's that. And then there was one other. How I learned what I learned. I got to direct that in DC. I'm just tracking my connection here to you, sir.
Yeah.
And we've already felt this kinship already, this heart thing. So I'm going, man, our stories are more connected here
Yeah.
than a little bit, which excites me so very much because I hold you in high regard. I hold you in such high regard.
So I appreciate you. And we're in the world of theater, and we were fortunate to be here when one of the all-time greats came through. And he is definitely the all-time greats playwright.
Yeah. This is not your first time working with one of the greats of our community, because I think a part of our connection again too. I directed a production of Dutchman. I directed a production of Dutchman, and I talked to you about this production of Dutchman. I don't know, maybe.
Yes, no, I remember now. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we're moving from August to Amiri Baraka.
Yeah.
Brother Leroy Jones,
who inspired August. He was one of the bees, one of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Talk to me about your connection there. Talk to us.
Oh man, Amiri. You see, Freddie Hubbard had an album out called Red Clay one time, because it was about the red clay of Georgia and about how people. And so I did a production of Dutchman in Kansas City. We did to raise some money to pay the bail for a brother that had gotten into a little trouble from protesting, not from robbing nobody or doing that, but just being a part of the time. Knew that when we raised the bail that he was going to go, he was going to leave, and so nobody could put up their money, but we could put up the proceeds from an evening. So we had an evening of jazz, drama, and poetry. And at first it was a jazz set, and then we did Dutchman, and then Amiri came and did his poetry. And when he saw that Dutchman, he was, because he was a jazz man too. So he jazz and blues. But he said, yeah, red clay. And I was all right with that. But from then on, and then when I was at Juilliard studying and doing the classics, I played Lear, and because we were in training, so we weren't doing it for the public. We were just working on the play, and I was fortunate enough to be cast as Lear, along with Sam Shutevitz, a Greek actor, and other classics, Winter's Tale, and Twelfth Night, and so on and so forth, and some American classics too, William Saroyan and Thornton Wilder, and so I was wondering, I wanted to know. I said, man, is this valid for me to be doing this? And I went to Amiri and asked him, and he said, yeah, man. He said, you're an artist, and you're studying the great works, and you're building the muscles that he said, just don't let them let you lose your naturalness. Just don't suddenly have a British accent, okay? Brothers that went, and it's like they got infected, and they got caught a virus or something, suddenly started to talk a certain kind of way and all. And he said, just don't do that, man. That's all I said. All right, brother, no chance of that. But he said, when you play the role, go all the way. But just don't become someone in yourself in your life. And we just kept crossing paths all through my journey. And and he we did an evening together at the Irondale in Brooklyn. It was an interview, public interview, where he was interviewing me, much like this, and but it was for the public, and they paid money to come to see it, and it was quite an evening. It's one of the stored up in my heart forever. And then he and I and Woody King had a fish dinner over in Newark that was really a great evening. And then in St. Louis, my brother Ron Himes runs the Black Rep down there, and he had Amiri in many times, and he and I and Woody did an evening honoring August right after our August passed. Ron brought us all in and did cutting some plays with the company and some public discussions. So, and then at the very end there, Amiri wrote a piece about Du Bois. That was, the most dangerous man in America is the name of it. And we did a reading uptown in Harlem. And I also got a chance to speak at the memorial for Amiri at the Schomburg. And he was a very meaningful force in my life. And everybody knows how fiery and powerful and all of that he was, but one-on-one, man, he was just so personal and general, genial, and I can say nurturing, and so and that's when I first met August. The first thing he asked me is, do you know the work of Amiri Brock and Leroy Jones? And I said, yeah, I know his work, but I know him, man. He said, you know him? I said, yeah, I know Amiri, and then we started talking, and he was, I had to recite some of Amiri's work to convince August that. Yeah, so I did, and he said, yeah, man, that's it, that's the stuff. There's always a joy to connect those dots,
Well, you said something really interesting, which is gonna move me into this part of our conversation. One, I don't want to overlook that you were nominated for a Tony Award twice, and one of those was for the role of Bono. Yeah. Again, saw you do it. It was a masterclass. Incredible, well deserved. We're gonna talk about Between Riverside. We're gonna talk about that. But you said something that Mary said to you that begs this part of the conversation. Learn all of the things, but don't forget and don't forsake you.
Yeah.
I've never been in a class with you, but I had an opportunity in my research. There's some clips of you teaching, sir. And one of the things that we say about you in the community, I don't know if you know this, is that you are authentically you. That you jump from this to this to this, but at the heart of it is the authenticity of a Black man.
Oh, thank you, brother.
And I notice and I discern that in watching these videos that I've come across of you teaching. You're passionate about teaching.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk to us about where that passion was born, and then, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but I discern a shift when you start dealing with us. You start dealing with us. There's a little bit of you dig in a little more. You push and it is as if Amiri's admonition is. So I want you to talk about that, because I'm telling you, I experienced that just watching these videos, and my one thought was, damn, I wish I was in one of those.
The inspiration for it, the fact that I had some wonderful teachers. I mean, from day one, from Jump Street, man. because in an all Black community, Grant Elementary School, there was a principal there who used to come to the 5th and 6th grade classes and read Greek mythology to us. And some people took it as a great time because they were glad they didn't have to do any math or do any other stuff, and some would be kind of nodding. But I mean, I was just, wow, man, it's fascinating. And so that was the foundation of the classics, really. Then I had a teacher in high school named Miss Bloodworth. She was, I mean, that's a severe name, man. Blood. Yeah. English teacher, and she had me. She saw me one time on the weekend on the corner having a drink with a beer with some boys and everything. And so when we got to class, she said, we're going to read the Scottish play. And she explained why this sometimes called the Scottish play. And but she said, and now, Mr. Henderson, I'd like you to play the drunken porter. And okay, so I went to the library and listened to all the caveman tape, and I came back with knock, knock, who's there in the name of Beelzebub? I came with a whole thing, and she was like, oh, okay, you go, because I had to get back, but she encouraged me to read the poetry of the Romantics and, and all of that. And then I had that other great teacher and a history teacher, Dr. Beasley, who was, Black history. He taught, and I traveled with him when he gave lectures, and he would have a break in and say, okay, from the Harlem Renaissance, read this poem by McKay, read this poem by Langston, do a monologue from Lorraine's play. And so I was accompanied him, and all these great teachers. And the whole notion of being able to do Brecht and Chekhov and to know all the world of theater and literature, dramatic literature, and then appreciate the great Black the African-American playwrights and writers of poetry and prose and stories. I mean, it's just amazing. And Marion Seldes, who was a teacher at Juilliard, she realized when I got there, because that's the first time I had been in school with majority whites. I had gone to Black schools all through grade school and junior high school and high school. And in my first year of college at Lincoln U, where we had white students who were in class on campus, but they didn't live on campus. So it was all. But New York and Juilliard was the first time, and I was really in that environment 24/7 kind of. And well, not 24/7 because I went home to Harlem, but is that she took me to a James Joyce Society meeting. She invited me to go with her to a James Joyce Society meeting. And I was a little way about it, but I love Marion. She was just such a light and such a brilliant actor and teacher. So she took me there and read letters of people who had letters about James Joyce. So I got to see just how personal, that it was a community. And then there was someone there who mentioned Langston at the thing and in a letter that they had written, and they were talking about poets and they were talking about Langston. And I realized, oh man, it's one world when it comes to the arts. It's one world. And so that freed me, that and what Amiri told me about, do the classics, man, but just don't lose yourself. Sure that you don't start to lose yourself. And so it was wonderful, because the reality is, when you know yourself, you can go all those other places. You're free to really go those places. Because for a long time I was divided. I mean, it wasn't healthy. I wasn't, I was worried that I was doing something wrong, because the streets were the streets and the things that were going on. And I said, I'm in this lofty ivory tower studying the classics. But I realized too that the arts, it's a civilizing force. It's a humanizing and civilizing and empathizing reality that we're talking about. And so to be in the classroom and then to work with the great Lloyd Richards, man. You know, and to in class with Lloyd, I was 51 years old when I first got a class with Lloyd Richards. I was a professor at SUNY Buffalo. I've been, been doing it all these places and all these times. But Israel Hicks, the great Israel Hicks, got me a fellowship to be a part. He and Michael Miller, who just passed away recently.
Yeah.
He got me a Fox Foundation fellowship to study with anywhere I wanted to study, really. But Lloyd was a possibility, so that's where I studied. My Thursdays with Lloyd, I think, like Tuesdays with Maury, I would fly into New York and have a class with Lloyd, and then ride back to his home with him from the class downtown to his place up in the 90s, and to go through that with him and help him in the car, and he had a story for almost every third corner. He'd say, "Oh, that's where I.C. and I did. That's where Poitier and I did this and that." And he'd be, and I, just it was just so wonderful to get that, and to be and have my feet held to the fire, because he, I did some work that he really, really liked, and I did. But I remember I had an entrance and I had to come in the door once. And so I came in and he stopped it right away. I hadn't said a word. He said, "Oh, no, you're not full. You're not full. You're not ready to say a word. Till you're really full emotionally, don't speak." I went out. I came back in. He said, nah. I started talking. He said, "Still not there, still not." So, and then it got to a point where even people in the class were saying, "This is an awkward moment between the two of them," But it wasn't. I just kept going out that door, trying my best to come in.
Yeah.
First, I got to get over what he's doing to me, and it's really good. And then I realized, that's why he's doing
it. Yes.
And so I came in there, pissed to the highest pisticity, brother. You know what I mean? I come in there, and he was saying, "Now you got it. Now
you're ready."
So, but yeah, it's the great teachers. I mean, we get here on giant shoulders, man. We get here on giant shoulders, and there have been a lot of giants, and I've been very fortunate to work with and around those giants.
Wow. I mean, again, I watched those clips, and I'm just like, wow. And so to hear you talk about Thursdays with Lloyd, I think there's a play in there. So you're not done yet. You're not done. That's your how I learned what I learned. I just think, man, the gift of having you as a teacher. We have a friend in common, Marone Longsner, Dr. Marone Longsner, who also celebrates you as a teacher. And so so we experience your brilliance on the stage. We experience your brilliance in the classroom. There is a commitment that we are learning how to balance in this industry, in this world, in this life, that I think you've taught us to something valuable. You have been married to one woman for how long, sir?
Well, it'd be 47 years, April 22nd.
Mm-hmm. You have how many children, sir?
One
son.
And 3 grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
That's the return on any investment I ever got, man. I got 3 grandkids out of 1 son, and that's great.
So, but here, and that's beautiful. Here's the lesson that you've taught us, knowingly or unknowingly. 47 years, you said?
Yeah.
You've balanced family and career, and you've made the hard choices. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, I can absolutely. I knew my mother and my father, and throughout their life, and I had 2 sisters still have one sister and a brother, but one sister and brother are gone now. And but we had such a, and I won't say dysfunctional, because it wasn't that it was dysfunctional. It just was disjointed. It just wasn't, wasn't the story of, mom, dad, in a car and a thing and that. But I always knew that I valued that. I valued it as much as I valued a career. And
Mhm.
and I've known some incredible women in my life. I mean, women are amazing beings. And so I had several loves when I wasn't mature enough to know what love was. So you have to, you know, one of the things Amiri wrote, love is lost because it's most precious, and most precious because it can be lost. And so when you have had a few things where and it was you, and I'm just talking to myself, I blew a few incredible relationships. And so when that third charm chance came along and I met the right person, man, oh boy, I
Mm.
that and I needed the help. I needed the help, and I was able to help, and so we were able to get through it. But and then when the child was born, uh, that was it. I remember asking myself, how was it that my father was able to leave me? How was it that my mother but she had to, because she had one child that was had a disability, and then I was born. And my mother had her first child. She was 14 years old, and she was cursed with beauty in the streets. And then my father came in, and he had injuries from Korea. So things just we were victims of a lot of different stuff. We were victims
Mhm.
of a lot of stuff. But and then there were all these people who were equally victimized, but who rose above it, who found a way over it. And then my mother and I got to be very dear friends. And that sounds kind of funny, but I mean, we did. As life went on, and I understood her choices and what she had to go through. And the same with my father, when we were able to talk about what it was and how his father had failed him and all that. But I knew I didn't have to be in that cycle. I could, if I was willing to, as you say, make the hard choices, man. You got to, you know, uh, uh, take the crookeds with the straights, as August.
Come on now.
With the straights. And so I'm blessed and grateful that and Pam is she's endured, and and my son has been such a help. But that makes you, it brings out the best in you.
Mhm.
Be that to want to be for some child what you didn't have yourself. And if you had a wonderful parent and childhood, then of course you want to make sure that and that's why Lorraine calls them the younger family. Walter
Mhm.
younger, Lena younger, because everybody wants for their youngers to go forward and go further than them. So
Mhm.
and Jamal has been that blessing for me. And so I'm probably the least responsible for the successful 47 years. I can tell you. First part, and Jamal got me through the next part, and old age is getting me through the last part.
Not old, season, sir. Season.
Okay, all right.
Season.
I'll take that.
Uh,
Take that.
you 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 made your Broadway debut when?
Was King Hedley II,
Uh-huh. And what year was that?
2001.
Uh-huh. And you've been in this game since when?
Oh, I got my equity card in 76.
So from 76 to 2001, you are working this thing. And one would argue that from 70, blah, 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 to maybe 1980, 1990. You should have made it. You should have hit those boards. How do you define success? Certainly, as a Black man in this industry, what is the pillar of success? How do you define that?
Wow, what a question. The first thing that comes to my mind is a man that I mentioned a little while ago, and you seem to know who I was talking about. Did you know or hear of Israel Hicks?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, Israel was a dear friend, a great friend,
Oh,
great mentor, and just a great human being and a fabulous director.
mm,
Harold Scott, two great directors. And but Israel said to me once that he knew he was a success when he didn't have to work for anyone he didn't want to work for. And I knew at the time when he said it that I had indeed, and many of us do, when you're trying to take care of family and so on and so forth, you take a job and you find out that you're working with maybe sometimes the person at the helm, the director or artistic director or producer, somebody who is just incorrect and they treat people incorrectly. And but you gotta decide, well, do I want to go and wait tables or do I want to do this job? And John Houseman always said, take the job, be working, always be working at your craft when you can. And so I did have to work for quite a few times with people that I didn't know before, but I'd get in the job, and you can't quit. Your first obligation, Lloyd said this, your first obligation is to get the job. Your second obligation is to keep the job
mm,
and do a good job. So I always stuck it through. Maybe one time, maybe I didn't, and I regretted leaving when I did. But so I stayed with it. But I can honestly say that today, I really don't have to work with or for anyone whom I don't want to work with. Now,
mm.
that is that's a success for me because I think of Papa, and I know he went and worked for Armour's Packing Company and slaughtered animals. And there were days that I know he woke up and he didn't want to go and slaughter no animals. Okay, but he did years so that I could go to school. And I can say, even when I had some people I didn't want to work with, I was still doing the thing I love.
Yeah,
I didn't have
yeah.
a problem going and working on that project. Um, but I I I I have been I've been what they call an accomplished actor, and I've been what they call a celebrated actor. But it was a long time before I was a paid actor. When I got, what I'm saying, when I got some ducats, what I mean. That's another way. But when you get there, you say, now this is because you're only getting paid for all those times before. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
all those times, and what I'm most happy about, even when the people are gone, the people who help me, when they're not even in this dimension anymore, and some who are here, I really feel grateful. I feel a great success when I know that their faith in me was justified.
Mm.
That's the greatest sense I have of success. When I know that there are people who sacrificed and who tried to help me, for people who for whom I might have, first I thought I had it, then I didn't have it, then I might have disappointed them at some point. But then to come back, I had this happen that was a great thing. You started this, and we'll move on. But my first nomination for Bono, the couple the woman who cast me as a Linder and Walter Lee and my high school teacher, and who sent me to Juilliard. She and her husband got me a plane ticket to go, and the two of them had been married a while, and then they divorced and they weren't together anymore. But when the day that the nomination came out, that they announced that I was nominated for a Tony, I was in New York, and he went from Missouri to Kansas to get with her so they could call me together and congratulate me on it. And to know that they were together, and I know that they had dinner that night, and they knew that they were looking back over the time and said, now this is something we did right, you know. So the successes like that, kind of full circle moments in life.
Yeah.
You have, and just recently I was, you probably might get to this, but that was something to be inducted into the American Theater Hall of Fame at the Gerber Theater. And it was such a tasteful event, and no red carpet, no cameras, no all of that. Just theater people on a Monday in a theater, and to see the names up there, it gets to me that it was good that I ran away and joined the circus. I'm glad and made it to the big top.
Yeah, so deserving you are. I'm sitting here as you're talking, and I'm thinking about who I guess I would call your classmates: Charlie Brown, Ernest Perry.
Yeah. Oh man, Ernest.
Yeah. Ron O.J. Parsons.
Yeah, my
who
brother.
sends his love to you, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's my.
I'm thinking about your classmates, Rock Dutton. What great company. Andre DeShields.
Oh man,
we had Andre on in the first season of this Spotlight series, and your classmates have taught us so much, and we're so grateful, and we want to honor you. We want to love on you. We want to say thank you. We want to make you proud. We want you to not so much as give us the keys, but we want you to see in us the reason to pass the baton. And so in our last moments together, Professor, celebrated actor, Tony nominee, Obie Award winner, what do you see right now for us, certainly as Black artists in 2025? What do you hope for us beyond this moment?
Well, what I see is we're about to enter one of the most challenging periods for the arts itself. You can tell that by Kennedy Center, but also particularly for us, because some of our theaters have survived on a rather large diet of public funds. And that may stop. That may come to an end. And so we have to find and we have to provide our own means to support the surviving theaters. We have got to get to a place where the graduates of any program, and that might thin out too, but whoever comes out with that MFA, that they should be able to get an equity salary in any Black theater they're in, just like any other Lord theater. So we've got to concentrate, and we got to get all our hip hop artists. We got to get all those people who got serious money. to know that we need to have our own foundation for the arts so that the culture, if they're not going to teach classes in school, if they're saying they want to get rid of certain forms of history, I mean, it's really sad, but the arts keep it going. If you do Carlisle Brown's The African Company, you're going to pass on some history. If you go back and do The Great White Fall, you're gonna pass the big white. You're gonna pass on some history. Blues for Mr. Charlie. You name it. There are ways that history gets passed on. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. But that's real life.
Oh, cool. But we've got to use the arts, especially theater, to pass on the oral tradition, because it's written tradition and an oral tradition. It's written by playwrights, but it's spoken out among the crowd, and we got to get the people to talk together and make sure that I see a difficult time, but I see us being triumphant because we came from more difficult times and got here. Those before us, they did, and I thought about it, the other day, Fugard passed, and they used to do their plays and do the show and then pass the props out among the crowd so that when the police came, they didn't know who was the actor and who was not. So we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it, but we don't need to just survive. We need to thrive.
Yeah.
And the theaters that we got to raise the bar. We got to be revolutionary optimists. We got to be revolutionary optimists. It's a revolutionary act to remain optimistic in times like this.
Yes.
So, got to be a revolution.
Wow. You said that to me when I was working on Dutchman. And that
Amiri told me that.
Yeah. And that was the heartbeat of our play. And so I'm so glad that you said that. This is the best way to close out this moment, that we lift the level of our optimism in a revolutionary way. We thank you, sir. We thank you so much for your gift. We thank you so much for your artistry. We thank you so much for your time. You are one of the GOATs. You are one of the GOATs, and we are grateful
for your faith, because this is a wonderful thing that you're doing. And I love it when you say we, because I know you're part of a community. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, friends. Man, I'm full. I feel like I can walk through any door right now because my emotions, my heart are full. Thank you for joining us for this incredible time with the GOAT, Stephen McKinley Henderson. If you are excited about these interviews, why don't you follow Black Broadway Men on all of our platforms? Just follow us at Black Broadway Men on social media. Follow us there, Black Broadway Men, and you will be in the know about all that we are doing. Until next time, lift your level of optimism in a revolutionary way. I'm Damone. I'll see you again. Peace.